point of this problem is to do what? Take your records, your checking records, and the bank's records, and reconcile them so where you will have the same balance, ending balance at the end. So anything that is not currently noted in your records, you have to add it in or subtract it from your balance, things that are not in your records. And things that are not in the bank's records, we have to either add or subtract from the bank's balance. Now this is the starting balance here, remember? Okay, so, everything is up here for you. Now some of the things that you want to remember, I think you have 3 problems like this, 2 or 3 on here. Some of the things you want to remember, for one, is that whenever they give you all of the checks outstanding, what do you usually have to do?
You have to add them all together.
You have to add them all together. Put the answer in one blank, not separately, not itemizing them. All right? Okay? Let's go ahead and start from the beginning. I'll go slow on the first one. The next 1 or 2, it's just repetition. We have a local bank that charges $4.29 each month for return canceled checks. So if you want to get your canceled checks, those are all right. The ones you've already been processed, if you want to get those, $4.29 a month. That is right here. See where it goes? Canceled check. Now usually they would call that a fee. They just didn't use the word fee on the line. Okay, moving right along. Oh, by the way, why do you deduct that from your balance?
Because that's a deduction from the amount that you have in your account.
But you're being charged that. You're being charged that by the bank. So that's money you have to give to them. Okay? The bank also has an $8 maintenance fee. Anytime you see the word fee or charge, it goes under the deductions on your side. The word fee or charge. Maintenance fee of $8. If the checking account slips below $750, did it slip below $750?
Yeah. I mean, no, that's not, but.
Well, make sure you put it in there.
Yeah.
How about that?
By their records, it's.
By their records, yeah. We're not even going to go there. Okay? You're getting charged with it.
You just accepted it.
It's accepted.
It's not worth it.
If in real life, it might be worth the hassle.
No, it's not.
Well, the time you spend on gas to get to the bank, to talk to a person, all these minutes wasted, it's not worth $8. So anyway, Donna likes to have copies of her canceled checks, so she's going to have the $4.29 fee, like we said, for canceled checks. She has received her bank statement with a balance of $546.49. Okay, that is her bank statement balance, not her balance. She received $260 in interest. Now she's receiving that, so she's getting that money from the bank. So that is an addition. It's just been charged for the canceled checks and the maintenance fee. We went over that. The following checks are outstanding. Now you add all these amounts together. Make sure you don't use the number, the check number, as the amount. That could happen by mistake. You add them all together and you get $507.68. Why do we deduct that from the bank's records? Because it has not yet cleared the bank. Right. Okay. A deposit of $760.27 was not recorded on Donna's bank statement. They tell you that we have to put in the bank statement. $760.27. That's money that you're getting. Okay? The bank doesn't know about it yet. It's a deposit in transit. Always an addition on the bank side. All right? And then finally, it says her checkbook shows a balance of $808.77. So there you would plug this in at the top for her balance, her records. So whatever order you want to do these things in, all I did was I went in the order of the sentences, okay? And I showed you where they went as we went along. Now, it doesn't have to be done in that order. Some people might find it easier to find out first what? The balances. and find them, go through this and find them and plug them in first. It's however you want to do it. Okay, so once all is said and done, we come out with an equal balance. But let's back up a step here. Do you remember how to do this? 808, 77 is the beginning balance. Any additions? Yes. So we add that to the beginning balance, plus, and you get 811, 37. Now your deductions, we move it to the left because we're going to do what? Add these together and come out with total deductions. And then we deduct total deductions from the current balance. So a minus sign right here. And here's your final balance. On the right-hand side, the bank balance. Any additions? We have one, deposit in transit. So we add these two amounts. Here's a plus sign right here. Here's the result. And then any deductions, we added all the outstanding checks together. Minus sign right here. Subtract 507.68. And there is the final balance. Okay, any questions on this one? All right. Here's another one, similar. All right, what do we have here? Now, I went over the last one very slow. I think you're used to these by now, right? You know where to put any additions, what goes under deductions on your side, also what goes under additions and deductions on the bank side. Again, anything that has the word fee in it is a deduction on your side, including NSF. What does the F stand for? Funds, where you get associated with fee. This is what, we didn't have this in the last problem, this automatic withdrawal. So that's for your home payment, or it could be a car payment. It could be any kind of payment, right? It's an automatic withdrawal. So shouldn't you have that in your records already? Sure. What this person does. Remember we talked about this weeks ago? We said this is the irresponsible banker, and they don't put there's certain things that should be in there. Maybe not your interest, because you don't know what that's going to be. Not very much. But something like this, you would think, you know, you would have that in there already. Yeah. And of course, the bank doesn't know about these things at all. They're responsible. They just don't know that these things are coming in. So again, we have a deposit in transit, like the last problem. It's always an addition on the bank side. And we have, again, like the last problem, outstanding checks at the end, right? Where are they? Right here. Add them up together. You do the same thing you did to get the answer to the last problem. Be sure to pay close attention to the red print. Okay, always read that. Brown, like they tell you to. 2 decimal places. Anytime we're dealing with money, it's going to be 2 decimal places. 99% of the time. There might be a few exceptions. Any questions? Ready for another one? Okay.
Awesome.
Those are bank problems.
Awesome.
Okay, if you recognize this one, you should, because you had it for your quiz back in chapter 5. Does it look familiar? We're in chapter 5. We're done with chapter 4. Okay? What is the name of chapter 5 again? What is the central theme of chapter 5? You don't have to look it up, but I just wanted to see if you remember off the top of your head.
Simple interest.
That's 10.
Oh.
Say it again. Solving for the unknown. Right. So this is where we started getting into the variables, using letters. Solving for that unknown. Right. Okay, in this case, what is the unknown? It's going to be V, and it stands for what value? We have the same exact problem back in chapter 5. Of course, the numbers are different here. Okay, so in 1955, an antique car that cost back then $5,068 is valued today at $63,525. If there's a condition, if it is in excellent condition. Now, excellent condition is 5 1/4 times as much as a car in very nice condition. So how are we going to use these things? Okay, let's take a look right here how the problem is set up. The variable is V. It actually stands for very nice condition. Okay, and why do we have 5 1/4 times V? Because 5 1/4 represents the value of a car in excellent condition when we multiply it times the value of the car in very nice condition. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the answer is 63,525. How do we know that? It is valued today at 63,525. So again, what are we trying to find here? The value of the car, if it's in what?
Excellent condition.
Very nice
Well,
condition.
very nice, you're right.
This is the value of the car if it's in excellent condition. We have that already. So we're trying to figure out what is the value if it's in very nice condition, which is going to be much lower. I mean, very nice sounds good, doesn't it? But excellent is above that when you have ratings for cars. Okay, so we have the equation set up, 5 1/4 times V. Over here, what can you do? It's totally your choice.
Change that to 5.25.
Change the fraction to 0.25. Now, that if it were me, I would do that. It would make life a little easier for you. If you change the 1/4 to 0.25, you would have what here? 5.25 equals 63,525. And right here, you would have 5.25 times V equals 63,525. Now, we always do the opposite of any operation. To isolate the variable, we do the opposite to get the letter by itself. So to get that letter by itself, what are we going to have to do here? If you use this method, obviously this is a multiplication problem, so you will divide by the same amount. Now, whatever you do on one side of the equal sign,
You have to do it
you
to
will
the
on
other.
both sides. But again, right here, you could have 5.25 times V. And in that case, what would you do? You divide by 5.25 on both sides, which would make it very easy for you over here, you know, if you use the decimal instead. Any questions on this one? Okay, so it's all familiar? Still? Just 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, number 7. This is number 7. You recognize it.
Yep.
The names of the store, the numbers are different. So we're in chapter 5 still. We have Jill. Jill's an employee at Old Navy. She budgets 1/5 of her yearly salary, 1/5, for clothing. Her total clothing bill for the year, total, what does that mean? Total means equals. Or it means equals. Equal sign, right? We're setting these things up. Equals. For the year is $8,000. Okay? As you can see right here in the explanation, equals $8,000. Now, she spends 1/5 of her money that she earns on clothes. I don't know if that's high, low, or what.
Well, she makes more than me, so.
8,000 on clothes. Yeah, I guess that's. I mean, you can figure it out in your head. You know, 1/5 of or excuse me, 8,000 times 5. That seems a little hard. Maybe not for a woman. Okay, anyway, look at how it's set up. 1/5 times the variable S. S represents what? Salary?
Salary.
Okay? So, right here in the first step, we have to do the opposite. This is a multiplication problem, 1/5 times S. Now, what could you also do here, just like in the previous one? You can convert the fraction to what?
Decimal.
What is that decimal equivalent?
0.2.
0.2, good. So 0.2 times S. If you choose to do it that way. If you don't, then you'd be working it this way. Now, if this is a multiplication problem, 1/5 times S, then you would solve it with what? You would divide by the same thing, right? And the way they're showing it here is a little bit different, but you would divide both sides by 1/5. If you think about it, 1/5 divided by 1/5, think about that. You can picture it. Whenever you divide fractions, what do you do to the second fraction?
Cross.
You
Well,
flip
yeah,
it.
reciprocal.
That's why we're multiplying times 5 here.
That's
If
why
you want to
don't
make it,
understand that.
if you want to just make this very simple, when your working number, was it 7 again?
7,
Just use 0.25.
0.25.
0.20.
0.2.
Okay.
Okay, so 0.2 times S, picture that right here. What does that mean we would have to do? If it was
Divide.
0.2 times S equals 8,000,
We have to divide.
divide by 0.2. A lot simpler than what we have up here, right? So you divide both sides by 0.2. 1/5 divided by 0.2, 8,000 divided by 0.2. In the end, either way you work it, you're going to get $40,000. Okay? You know, if you use your, some people are quick with this kind of stuff. Like when I was talking about it up here, I can automatically see that if she spends 1/5 of her salary, you know, and her clothing bill is 8,000,
It's 40,000.
multiply 8,000 times 5. Because there's 5/5, right, in one. That makes sense. You can use that shortcut too. Now I don't know what your fraction's going to be in your problem. I don't know if it's everybody's going to get 1/5. This amount will probably be different. Okay, so we're okay with that one? Okay, next one, number 8. We're still on chapter 5.
What number is this one?
8.
Okay.
Do you recognize it? We had it at least once, maybe twice. Okay, the two guys that have the sandwich shops, Bill and Pete.
God, yeah, Pete sucked. Wait.
Oh, who did less? Pete, yeah, okay. Let's take a look at the words here. Bill sells 9 times. What does times mean?
Multiply.
Multiplication. So you know you're going to have 9 times something, right? 9 times as many sandwiches as Pete's Deli. Now, we can use the variable S, which stands for sandwich, I suppose. We can use it to represent Pete and Bill's sales. Why? Because it's the same product. Same exact thing. Look how it's set up here. Well, let me finish this off, sorry. The difference means what? Subtraction. The difference between their sales is means equals 688.
Bless you.
So over here, it's written vertically, okay? If we try to picture it horizontally, 9S minus S equals 688. Now why do we have 9S to represent Bill? Because Bill sold 9 times as many as Pete. And the other guy, or other person, or other company that's always in these problems is always represented by what? 1 times the variable, which means 1S. There's an imaginary 1 there, right?
Yep.
We don't have to put it.
Nope.
Okay, so starting at the bottom, are these like terms, 9S and minus 1S?
Nope.
Are they like terms?
Yes.
Yes. That means we can combine them because they're the same variable, right?
Right.
So 9s minus s equals 8s. So here's the second step. Here we are. Now this is multiplication. We have to do the opposite, which is division. So we divide both sides by 8. These cancel out. You're left with s. Over here, 688 divided by 8 gives you 86. Now all you have so far is Pete's. How do we get billed? We take the value for Pete and plug it in where? Right here.
Yeah.
For bill. We plug in the value for Pete, which is 1s equals 86. So we plug in 86
86 times 9.
times 9 for bill. Because you have to get both of their sales, not just one.
But then Pete hires an assassin to take out Bill. And it controls the market.
Maybe we'll try to work that in next semester. Yeah, he's really taking over there.
Pete's losing money bad.
He should try to sell something else maybe.
You should call Gordon Ramsay maybe.
Gordon Ramsay. Haven't seen that in a while.
Nothing's changed.
As a matter of fact, I saw him the other night. I was getting some food, but you know. Kitchen nightmares, right. Okay, any questions on this one? Another one? Okay, that was 8. This is 9. Let's go on chapter 5. We have General Electric, and they have 2 shifts where people work, right? You have shift 1 workers, you have shift 2 workers. Remember this problem? We had it before. What's the same exact one? Shift 1 produces 17 times as much as shift 2. Now does it sound familiar? GE's total production. Total means equals.
Yep.
Backing up a bit, times means
Multiply.
multiplication. Total production for July was 43,200 jet engines. So that is the total for both of them. What we have to find is how much did each shift produce? We know that shift 1 produced 17 times as much as shift 2. Look at how the equation is set up. S stands for shift, and it's just one shift or another one. They're both shifts, right? So we can use the same variable. 17S represents shift 1 because they sold 17 times as much. Of course, 1S is going to represent shift 2. So 17S plus S, here's your first step. These are like terms, so we can combine them and make it 18 times X. Equals 43,200. Second step here. Now we have to divide, right? Because this is a multiplication. We divide both sides by 18. These cancel out, you're left with the variable. On the right side, you get the answer 2,400. Now that is just for shift 2. It represents the value of S times 1, or 1S. We want to find out the value or production for the other shift.
24.
So we just take, just like in the previous problem, we take the value of 1 times S and plug it into 17 times S. Shift 1 is much higher. Any more? Any questions?
Is that nine?
9. No, okay. Well, it's, yeah,
I was trying to
it's
skip
9 on
by
there. You know how that works. When you go to your quiz, you're going to come across those. It shows you, right, whenever I
Yeah.
take them out. So, yeah, it's
Oh,
good
what?
to know.
One time I submitted, and it said, you gotta finish these questions, and I'm like, well, he omitted them.
All right.
So I just kind of went back, pretended, and then resubmitted again, and then it worked.
Word out. All right, we're switching chapters now. Chapter 10 and question number 10. So, look at what they're asking you to provide in the end. The interest and the total amount, which is also thought of as what? What else do we call that? What else do we call the total amount? Yeah, what is that?
Maturity value.
Maturity value, thank you. Okay, so Jennifer goes to Park Bank to borrow $3,900. She's borrowing that. That is her principal. Notice the formula down here? Principal times rate times time. URT. By the time you get out of here, you'll never forget that formula. We're not done with it yet. That's right. So principal, at 11.5% interest, convert that to a decimal. That is your rate, R. So Jennifer plans to repay the loan on January 19th. Now, when did she borrow? September 7th. September 7th to January 19th. Now, do you notice the link here for your table?
Yep.
Remember how to use the table. Okay? So we take 365 days in the year. Where do we get the 250 from?
The
First thing
table.
we looked up was what? September 7th on the table. Remember? Sorta?
So you go to.
Yeah? I can do that.
I think I remember, but I want to make sure. I had a hard time with it the first time. They were looking for September 7th.
7th? Going over to September.
September.
Right here.
250.
Okay.
So, 365.
That's really the first thing you should do, huh?
Yeah, it is, and it shows the first thing right here, actually. Because, and that's a good point, because to do time, to put in time, you have to have this answer. So you really have to do this first. Now, 365 days total in a year minus 250 for September 7th. We get 115, and the next time we add, what are we adding now? We go to the table
January
and get,
19 days of it.
we don't have to go to the table really,
No.
because from January 1 to January 19th is 19 days. So you just add in the 19, and then we get 134. So there's 134 days in between September 7th and January 19th. And if you choose not to use the table, you want to calculate it some other way, that's fine too. All right, so let's take a look. Principal, rate, time. This is your interest, right here, 166.94. That's your first answer, interest. And they just continued on the same line and added what to the interest? The principal, because we add the principal and interest to get the maturity value, the total of payments.
You ever get that one answer for what verse 365 versus 360?
No, I didn't. I emailed my colleague about it and never got a reply.
Amazing.
So she didn't.
Did she fall off the face of the earth?
I don't know. She don't know. I don't know anything about it. She teaches this class more than I do, actually. She's been teaching it longer, and she didn't say anything. So, you know, I know there's a reason somewhere.
I understand.
It might be an unethical reason.
Probably why she's not
It has
answering.
something to do with the table. So, any more questions about this one? Okay, a few more. That is 11. Next one is 12.
Same one.
Yeah. I would think you would have more than 14 problems, because there's only 2 left, right? Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, what are they asking for here? The payoff? What is the payoff? That's how much if you go into the bank on any given day.
Without interest. Paying out without interest.
Well, the payoff, it includes interest up to that day. It'll sometimes save you interest. will always say pay off early. Using either 360 days ordinary interest or 365. So what should you be thinking about? If you look down here in the explanation, you see the formula, PRT, right? The only thing that's different between these two is what?
The ordinary and the exact.
The 360 and the 365. So you're going to do the same calculations for both. And what you're doing is you're calculating the ordinary interest, or the ordinary interest and maturity value. Because here's the interest. Plus the principal gives you the maturity value. And then the second part, you're doing the same exact thing. Here is your interest, plus the principal gives you the maturity value for exact interest method. Take these two and do what with them?
Subtract.
Subtract them, and that gives you the difference. Are they asking you for the difference here? No. What they do want is these numbers. So here's your ordinary, here's your exact. I didn't read through the problem, but let me know if you're confused. We just did this not too long ago, right? I don't remember if you had the same exact problem. Can't remember that. Wait, the days, I didn't even talk about that. And it's the same thing we did last time, right? Mm-hmm. So there's your table for the days. September 14th until when? January 27th. Just like the last problem. You got a question?
It says 14 over 257 interest.
Oh yeah.
Top up there, 2,500 at
Oh.
14 over 257 interest.
Okay. I didn't notice that.
Sorry.
If you take your calculator and divide 14 by 257 and see what you get. Look at this. You're not getting 11.75?
18.35.
Oh no. Why would they give us in a fraction? I've never seen that before. I didn't notice it. Okay. So let's try to simplify this. Tell me what number you got. What answer did you get?
18.357.
Anybody else try it?
Yeah, I got the same thing.
Same thing.
The other way.
That's the way you should do it. 14 divided by 257. But I may have to do something about that. You're not going to be penalized. Don't worry about that. The problem is everybody's problems are going to be different. So I can't really tell you. Otherwise, I could tell you.
I got a different number. But mine's .054.
Okay, everybody's getting different answers.
You did it the other way.
No one got this?
No.
No.
Yeah, I can see that 14 is less than 11%. Less than 11% of 257. I can see that already. So anyway, I will post an announcement on the homepage about that problem. Okay. I don't think anybody's going to rush out and take this right after they leave. Are you?
Yes.
You are? Okay. When I go to my office, I will do it. All right. I will go on there and take a look. That's okay. I'll take a look. I want to go in there into the guts of this thing, so to speak, and take a look and see what happens whenever the problem changes. If that makes sense. Is that your question?
No, I just Googled the whole 360 days thing.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
What did it say?
Apparently that, yes, there's more interest compared to 365 days.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it ensures that all your payments are the same.
If they use what? 365 or 360? 360.
Instead of 360.
Yeah, but the actual, and that's true, but and I understand that, but what he was asking earlier is, in the calculations here, is that what you're saying? That's why we use 365 and not 360?
That's why we use 360 instead of 365.
Well, no, the question is, why do we use 365 and not 360? To calculate the dates. But what you're saying is right, yeah.
Because
Why worry about that? Mike has enough
So
problems.
all of us will have a different problem.
Yeah, I have to go and take a look and see what happens to this number
So you'll
as
give
it
us
changes.
I
I will. Now, what I might have to do is substitute something that's similar, that doesn't have something like this in it, okay? So if anything, I'll either take this out totally, or I will substitute it for something that's just like it.
Okay.
But you'll get fairness, you don't have to worry about that. Otherwise, do you see how to work it, besides this?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
So, is it
That's what I had issues with the last quiz. And what I had to do is go over the original problem, see how they were putting their decimal points, figure out mine. Because mine is not.
Did that work for you?
It did, but it took a little bit more work, but it just all depends on your calculator.
That's true, some people's calculators get slightly different answers.
Well, see, I couldn't understand why, on some of them, we had to move the decimal point 2 places. And I moved it 2 places, and it's like, that ain't what it said. So I moved it over 1 more, and that was the answer. I moved it over 3 places, and it got the answer. So that was so weird to me, I couldn't get that, I couldn't understand that.
I have
Instead
no
of
idea.
2, I had to move, well, my calculator, I had to move it 3.
If it works for you though.
It worked.
So we're still in chapter 10, you can see this is 10-28 from the question bank, okay? I can already see what I'm going to have to do, I don't know, I guess it's a Twilight Zone day or something. Whenever I copy these quizzes over from my previous course, it takes all the problems, in other words, the same quiz for exam from last course, okay? So I can clearly see that there's probably not any questions from chapter 11 in here. We have plenty of time, it takes me like 2 or 3 minutes to add a couple on there. So after we're done with this, I'll put them on there quickly, and then we'll go over them, all right? We have 25 minutes left. Okay, we have Lance. He went to his bank and he wants to know how long it will take for $2,150 to grow to $2,850. So he's investing this money, right? You recall this problem, didn't you have something like this? At 10% simple interest, there is your rate, okay? So look at what's going on down here. Let's plug in the items. The 10% is R. Do you recognize the formula? I divided by what? P times R. Because we're solving for what? Time. This says period, but don't be confused. This means time. I'm going to jot that down. Okay? The 700, how do we get that? We subtracted these 2 amounts. And why do we do that? Because he's investing this much, and he wants to know, how long is it going to take for it to grow to this amount? So this $700 is what he'll earn in interest, if he's earning 10%, right? So second step here, 700, and then 2150, you just take 10% of that, times 20, and you get 215. And now it's very simple. At the end, you get 3.26, and if you notice, they rounded it up to what? 3.3. The nearest tenth, 3.3. Because the 6 is higher than 5, right? Okay, no surprise with that one. I know of. Ready for another one?
yes.
Okay.
At 14.
This one you're going to solve for P. Not P, I'm sorry. Yes, P. They call it the amount. So what's going on here? This is the actual principle, right? They call it the amount. Abe buys a new kitchen set at Sears. He paid off the loan 80 days after it started with an interest charge of $14. Let's plug in the pieces. An interest charge, that is not the rate, that is I, the interest, $14. Recognize the formula? I divided by R times T. I divided by R times T to get P. They charge 9% interest. That is your
Great.
rate, R. So, you plug in all the numbers here. Now, what should you do here first?
Division.
Clear this up first, right? Before you start punching in things. We're going to do that, remember? So, 0.09 times 80 divided by 360. Write that number down. And then do 14 divided by that number. Whatever that number is. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on this one? All right, give me about 3 minutes. You can watch me as I'm doing this. I'll add 3 or 4 problems in chapter 11. We'll go over them. I don't know why they didn't transfer over.
Well, it says 14 and 20.
I don't think so, because the top says 14 columns.
No, it says questions
Well,
14
maybe,
and
yeah.
20.
Why would it say 14 questions up here? Maybe you're right, let's see. Oh,
Oh,
never
yay.
mind. Okay, there we are. It says 14 at the top, though. I thought that was the total.
So we're on what, 15?
Weird. We're still on chapter 10. Forget everything I said about adding chapter 11 and something. Monday is my long day. My busiest day. Okay, Joy made a $280 loan. Made a loan to Robinson Landscaping at 9%. So who's the lender here? Joy.
Joy.
Who's the borrower? Robinson Landscaping. 280 represents what? P. You see what we're looking for here? We're looking for time. So the formula is I divided by P times T, or times R, sorry.
Say that again?
I divided by P times R. Time. So, moving right along, 9%. There's your R. Robinson paid back the loan with interest of $546. There's I, the interest. $546. Everything is plugged in. When you solve for time, you get 78 days. Really simple. They call it the period. They call it period. Same thing as time. Round your answer to the nearest whole number. What does that mean? No?
Decibels.
No decimals. The ones place. Any questions on this one? We should be getting to 11 soon. No? Here we go. Here we go. Is that 11? Yep. Where's 11? There it is. Chapter 11, last chapter. All right, so you have to be able to pull out of this paragraph the things that you need and only those things, right? Do you recognize this problem? We had it just recently. You should recognize it because it's a story about the woman or the person that got scammed, like identity theft, and they did something and screwed up her credit, and now she's getting charged a higher interest rate because of a lower credit score. Does that sound familiar? Yes. And that person is Megan. She's taking out a loan for $1,610. I'm not going to read through all this again. Someone stole her identity. Okay, lowered her credit score. And because of that, the bank is going to charge her an additional fee, in addition to the interest, of 3%. So what you're going to do is calculate this fee and then add it to what?
3.
In these two steps, or right here. The interest. Okay? So think about that 3% fee as being part of the interest. Think about it that way. Okay, as well as take out the interest up front. Now, in simple discounting, chapter 11, what do? We take out the interest from the principal, and then you leave with what's called the what? Say it again? Close. Proceeds. Proceeds, right? Remember? Okay, the bank is offering her 12% APR, interest rate, R, right? For 6 months, and that is your what? 6 months time. Principal times rate times time. Why is it 0.5?
It was on the last problem too, we didn't figure it out.
Yeah, who can tell us? Why is it 0.5 and not 6 over 12?
Because 6 over 12 is that.
6 over 12 is 1/2. 1/2 is equal to 0.5. Makes your life easier if you use decimals, doesn't it? At least in here. Okay. So everybody with me right here. Now this is the interest. In chapter 11, we take the interest from the principal. But what do we have to do first in the second step? We have to figure out the amount of the 3% fee. And that is going to be $48.30. In the third step, we add that fee to what? The interest. We add that fee to the interest that we got in step 1. Because the fee, we just bundle it in with the interest, right? So think about all this as your interest, $144.90, and we're going to plug that in where? Right here. Okay, that is the interest. The last step, the proceeds, which you walk out the door with. Principal minus what? Interest equals proceeds. And that is going to stand for what? For principal in the formula. Principal, proceeds, it'll be in the P. Okay, so there's your proceeds. There's your interest. And finally what? Your, no, time. So this is what? I divided by P times T gives you what? R. What are we looking for? The effective interest rate. Why is it called effective again? Why is it called effective? Why not just rate? Come on, it hasn't been that long.
It's deducting interest.
It's because it's taking it out before or after.
Yes, because in chapter 11, we take out the interest from the principal. So this represents, effective interest rate represents the actual interest rate. In the problem, it says 12%. Effective interest rate is always what? Higher. So she's getting charged more than 12% actually. That's why it's called effective. It's the actual interest rate.
8 more %.
Yeah, quite a bit more. It's usually a little bit higher, right? So in the end, we calculate the problem. We get this long number here. We round it to what? The nearest whole number. Okay, so this is going to be 19.7%. We move the decimal, right? 7 is higher than 5. So you round up 19 to 20. Easy stuff. Did you get that all soaked in? Soaked up? Whatever, yeah? Ready for another one? The exams are always longer than the quizzes, as you'll notice. They're always longer. I mean, it's 4 chapters. Okay. What are they asking us for here? The proceeds and the effective rate. Did we just do the same thing in the last problem? Basically, yes. Okay, we have Bill. He signs an $8,500 note or loan agreement at Citizens Bank. $8,500, that is your
No, your principal.
principal. Okay, they charge 6 3/4% interest. What are you going to do with 3/4? 6.75 is your rate. Good. And then the loan is for 292 days. Very simply, put 292 over 360. It tells you right here, use 360. So, principal rate time, there's your interest. What is always the second step in chapter 11? Subtract the interest from the principal up front, and this is the proceeds. With me so far? So far we've got the interest, we use that to get the proceeds. Part B, they want the effective rate, the actual rate of interest. It's always going to be higher than what's stated up here in the problem. Okay? So at part B, you solve for what? If they're asking for effective rate, you take the interest formula and solve it for effective rate. What do you solve the interest formula for? Here. R. Remember? So what would you have here? Interest divided by, or I divided by P times T. I divided by P times T equals R. It's too bad you don't have a comprehensive exam here. Okay, so anyway, what do you do first? This part, the bottom part first. Simplify that as much as you can. Get a result. And then 465.38 divided by that result. Right? Right. And that's what they did here. This is the result of this calculation. In the end, you get 7.1%. That is higher than 63/4. The questions? Any more? Recognize this as a treasury bill problem. I gave you several of those in the last quiz, right? And you had the same exact problem. Remember this? Because the Treasury Department is selling $22 billion. Are you going to use that number? No. They're selling $22 billion in treasury bills to the public. You're going to buy one of these bills that has a denomination of $20,000. That is the face value. So the treasury bill is worth $20,000. Are you going to use that? Yes. That's your principal. Or that is your face value. Think of it as P though, because here's the formula. P times R times T. Okay? So the face value, what it's worth, the face value, the worth, is 20,000 P. The rate is 5.774 R. And the time, it says 3 months. They use 13/52. You could also use 3/12 or 1/4 or what?
91/365.
Say again?
91/365.
Or 91/365. Or looking for something else. I don't want you to go higher. Turn it into a decimal. 0.25, right. So you could use 0.25 right here. And you will all have this in your problem. I'm almost 99% sure. It should say 3 months for everybody. Right? Okay, so we get the interest, and then we automatically do what? Subtract the interest from the face value. And this is the person or the buyer's cost. This is what they paid for that treasury bill. Subtract the interest from the face value or the worth, and you get what he actually paid for it. So if it's worth $20,000, he's paying $19,711.30. Do you see how he's going to profit? Because they're going to pay him back the whole 20,000, right? That's how it works. Okay. The effective rate. You saw the interest rate formula for. We said in the last problem. For all. For all. Huh? Only for R. We're looking for effective interest rate. Okay, so we have at the top, we have I divided by what? Now in this case, be careful. P is usually here, right? And P represents, in this case, the cost. What the buyer is paying for that treasury bill. The cost. It is not the face value. Just like in another problem, if it was a loan problem, this would be what? This would be the proceeds. Recognize it? Okay? And the last thing is the time. Use whatever you want here. You can use 0.25 if you want. Here's the next calculation. The bottom part is calculated here. And in the end, you get 5.85, etc. Very long number. And you round it off to what? The tenths place. Or hundredths place, sorry. 2 places, hundredths. Okay, one more. One more.
Yay!
You're the man. So how many do you have here? I guess, is it 14 actually? It came out to 15?
Yeah. Perfect. 94,000.
14.